Hello and welcome back to Expedition Builds. In this video, we're going to take a look at how I dialed in my ride height on my JL. We're going to take a look at rear coil spring spacers as well as adding longer rear coils. Alright, let's use this pick as a reference point. This is my freshly built JL sitting on a 3.5-inch metal cloak game changer lift. At this point in my build, I've picked up almost 4¼ inches of lift. In terms of stance, the Jeep still has a little bit of rake to it, meaning the nose is a little bit lower than the tail. Looks-wise, there is a little bit of an optical illusion happening here. On the JL Rubicon, the front fenders are located very high up on the body line, giving the illusion that the nose sits a little high. We ran the 3.5-inch springs for a good part of a year before I decided to make a change. And here's the reason to the change. We're adding weight in terms of overlanding gear as well as armor to the build. So we're back in the shop adding a pair of Teraflex rear coil spring spacers. My thinking here was a 1/2-inch spacer would help us fine-tune the ride height for the overland gear we're carrying. This is a pretty straightforward mod with the new Teraflex 1/2-inch spacers sitting right on top of the original OEM cups. Alright, here's the new look. New stance with a 1/2-inch spacers installed, no load on the Jeep. I do like the new stance with the 1/2-inch spacers installed. It just looks right to me. So we continue to use the Jeep running the 1/2-inch spacers. Everything's working great. We overland, we rock crawl with it. But as I look at it loaded with gear, I really would like to tweak the suspension one more time. And up to this point, here's where we are with the build. Not completely happy with the way the Jeep's sitting under load. It's time to add a longer rear coil spring. So back in the shop we go. Time to switch out those 3.5-inch coils for a new set of 4.5-inch rear metal cloak coils. These are measurements taken before we install the new 4.5-inch coils. This will give us an idea how much lift we're going to gain. And here's the 3.5-inch coil compared to the 4.5-inch coil during the install. I was a little surprised at how much longer the 4.5-inch spring actually is. What I'm hoping to accomplish here is to add roughly a 1/2 inch more of lift at the rear. So we're removing the 1/2-inch coil spring spacer and just going to run the 4.5-inch spring. Alright, here's the new 4.5-inch coils installed. Everything looks good. Time to take some new measurements. And here's what we gained with the new 4.5-inch coils installed. About 3/8 of an inch up front and almost a full inch at the rear. The measurements were taken on the front and rear of my rock sliders, and if you project that out past the rear axle, you're probably gaining more like 1.25 inches. Here's a look at the previous setup with the 3.5-inch coil 1/2-inch spacer. And now here's the look of the new 4.5-inch rear coil. As you can see, it's not a huge change, but I think it is a change for the better. The stance looks better to me, and I think having that extra inch in there for cargo is going to be better for the overlanding trips. I hope you found this information helpful. My intent here was to get us thinking that perhaps we should be speccing a longer rear spring when we're doing an overland style build. Food for thought. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you on the trails.